Mr. Watkins. Chaz, I don't think this is truly what you want to do. I raised my eyebrows. And why is that, Doc? Well, I understand the urge for revenge is natural, but it's also a dangerous reaction that I assure you will end up hurting you. I slowly turned my head to the right, looking at Amy, who had her head down and seemed to be doing her best to stay out of the conversation. I stared at her for a few moments, then looked back at Dr. Carnes, noticing her forced, supposedly benevolent smile, which looked more like she was holding back a sneeze. I also noted the lack of rings on her left hand. She was an attractive woman, probably around my age, but she had been testing my patience for the past few weeks. Well, Doc, I said with a yawn, I'm not quite sure what you mean by it backfiring. I just don't see that happening. Let me explain. What Amy did was selfish and wrong. Revenge is also selfish and wrong, but it's purely vindictive. Amy wasn't attacking you. Taking revenge would only show her that your sole aim is to hurt her back, and that would signal you no longer care for her or the marriage. I believe the fact that you're here means that you still care and… Sorry, Doc. Maybe you forgot. I filed for divorce, remember? I'm here because Miss Reliable over there fought it and insisted on counseling, and the court ordered it. Yes, well, regardless, we need to work together to rebuild trust, and that will be far more difficult if she loses faith in you. What if she decides your attempt to hurt her is more than she can bear and gives up on the marriage? I smiled at her. That seems pretty hypocritical to me, don't you think, Amy? If I had been unfaithful, or rather been with multiple people several times, would you give up on our marriage? Mr. Watkins, the best way to handle difficult situations is to maintain your dignity and principles, not by seeking revenge through similar actions. Thanks, Doc. I get what you're saying. But I haven't heard an answer to the question I asked my wife. Come on, Amy. Why don't you join the conversation? How do we work on our marriage if we don't address the tough questions? If I acted out in the same way, would you see us as even, or would that mean the end? Amy squirmed. Mr. Watkins, Oh, for heaven's sake, Doc, call me Chaz. Chaz, this isn't productive. Whether or not you choose to save your marriage, your self-esteem, self-worth, and happiness are yours to hold on to. No one should have the power to take that from you. Don't lower yourself to negative behaviors that mirror Amy's infidelity. Rise above it and focus on your greatest strength, yourself. Building yourself up, becoming stronger, happier, and more confident is likely the best revenge, and it's the only way we'll uncover the issues in your marriage that led Amy to cheat in the first place. Infidelities, I said softly. Excuse me? Asked Dr. Carnes. Infidelities, Doc. Plural. She cheated on me several times, with several men. But now, if you don't mind, I'd like to change the topic. Dr. Carnes nodded. Amy was still trying to act as if this wasn't happening. Amy, I'll circle back to my question, so you might want to think about your answer. I looked at the good doctor again, and idly wondered if she didn't pass gas soon, would she just explode? So, Doc, you just told me that I need to stay positive, take the high road, and remain committed so we can figure out what led to Amy's infidelity. That we need to pinpoint what went wrong in our marriage that made her cheat on me with multiple men. Is that right? Exactly, Chaz. Once we understand the reasons behind it, we can approach them positively, start healing, and work on rebuilding your relationship. So, you're saying her sleeping around is somehow my fault? That kind of language isn't helpful, Chaz. But yes, to some extent, it is. Women in happy, fulfilling relationships don't usually cheat. I gave her my most skeptical look, but she ignored it. It takes both partners to make a marriage work and prevent infidelity. If we can address the underlying issues, you'll have a much better chance at fostering trust, fidelity, and harmony. For a moment, I was caught off guard by this. Then I quietly said, I call nonsense and deception. Excuse me? The puzzled doctor asked. Deception, Doc, a sly trick, typically used with dishonest intent. I know what the word means, Chaz. I just don't understand why you think there's any deception here. Oh, really? First, my unfaithful wife, who claims she wants to fix the marriage that she ruined, refuses to engage in this conversation. There are two people supposed to be working on this marriage, and she's not one of them. Second, you seem to think it's appropriate to hold me responsible for her promiscuous behavior. Mr. Watkins. Quiet, Doc. This is my time, and I'll say what I need to. If there were issues in our marriage, the proper response from my loving wife would have been to address them with me so we could work on them together. Don't you agree? She nodded, looking slightly puzzled. So, if she chose to take a proactive and healthy approach by sharing her concerns with me and wanting to address those issues in our marriage, and I either ignored her or denied that there were any problems, then I would be responsible for contributing to the ongoing issues in our marriage. Of course, and if that were the case, it would have been her decision to either accept it or not, and decide if she wanted to leave or continue working on the relationship. But she didn't do that. As far as I know, she wasn't unhappy. I'm not perfect, but she never mentioned any dissatisfaction with our marriage that would justify her blowing it up. No, Doc. If she was unhappy or dissatisfied, her actions completely removed any responsibility from me. That's on her, and your attempt to pin this on me is nonsense, and I'm not accepting it. Chaz, if you can't take responsibility for your part, I can guarantee your marriage won't survive this. I slowly stretched in my chair, then stood up and walked toward the door. I think we're done here. Dr. Carnes, if you want to continue, leave me a message before our next session explaining exactly why I should even bother. Our life together, up until now, has been rather uneventful and ordinary. Amy and I had been married for 20 years. We first met during our freshman year of college, but we didn't start dating immediately because we were both in serious relationships at the time. By junior year, though, we ran into each other at a party and realized neither of us was seeing anyone seriously. We quickly began dating. After a few months, I wanted to make our relationship exclusive, but Amy declined. I looked at her, thanked her for the time we'd shared, and wished her the best. She seemed puzzled. Chaz, wait. What's happening? Are you saying that if I don't agree to be exclusive, we're done? Yes, Amy, exactly. I'm looking for a long-term partner, not someone I have to share. If that's not what you want, then I need to be free to find someone who is. But you are free to date others, Chaz. I don't get why we need to stop seeing each other just so you can date around. We have fun together, and the intimacy is great. I see other guys and still enjoy spending time with you. You're free to do the same, and if you find someone special and want to commit, I won't stand in your way. I thought I had already found that person, Amy. I'm sorry for wasting both your time and mine. Goodbye. After that, I stopped seeing Amy and spent the rest of my junior year dating other people. We occasionally crossed paths at parties, but I never spoke to her again, and I certainly never called her. By my senior year, I was in a relationship with a beautiful Asian woman and was seriously considering marriage. Then she told me she had been accepted into a graduate program abroad and would be leaving within a week of graduation. She was so excited that I couldn't bring myself to express how I felt. I swallowed my hurt pride and helped her celebrate instead. Gradually, I started to distance myself from her, but she didn't seem to notice, or, if I'm being completely honest, care. A week after graduation, she left. Occasionally, I still get emails from her, but that was the end of our relationship. After graduating, I accepted a job at a large software company and began my career. I was earning excellent money and, within 2 years, was invited to join the sales team. Though I had started on the development side, they quickly realized I was one of the few developers who could comfortably interact with clients. Soon, I became a project manager for implementations and a pre-sales asset for account executives who needed technical yet personable support. Eventually, the VP of sales suggested that I might excel in sales, and she was right. In my first year, I achieved 121% of my sales quota, which landed me in a much higher tax bracket. I was happy with my job, owned a stylish condo, drove a nice new car, and lived the life of a successful, unattached bachelor. I dated, I had flings, but deep down, I was miserable. I wanted a relationship, someone to share my success and life with. After 2 successful years in sales, I unexpectedly crossed paths with Amy again. She was now a junior purchasing agent at a company where I was pitching our solution, and she was part of the team assessing our bid. To cut a long story short, we started dating, and this time Amy seemed ready for a commitment. She was actually the one who insisted on an exclusive relationship. She appeared to have changed, and the chemistry between us was still strong, so I agreed, and within 18 months we were married. 2 years later, Amy gave birth to our son, Peter. Sadly, we were advised not to have more children. It was devastating, but we were grateful to have Pete, so we chose to move forward. I had a vasectomy, and we continued to focus on our marriage, each other, our son, and our careers. When Pete left for college, tension began to build between Amy and me. She became distant, often avoiding me, and our once vibrant intimacy life dwindled to almost nothing. I started to have doubts about her. Amy was spending more time at work and showing no affection toward me. Not one to ignore issues, I hired a private investigator to uncover what was going on. What they discovered has brought us to where we are now. Mr. Watkins, this is Dr. Carnes. I believe I understand your frustration from our last session, and I want to assure you that I am fully committed to helping both you and Amy. I'm not placing any blame on you for her choices or actions. While I still believe there may have been underlying issues in your marriage, I agree with you that our main focus should be on how Amy decided to address them. My goal is for both of you to come out stronger after this process. I want to help you heal from the pain she has caused and guide you through adapting to this new reality, whatever that may be. Please don't give up on me, Amy, or your marriage. I truly hope to see you at tomorrow's session. I genuinely wanted an answer to my question, and since Amy was staying with a friend and we weren't speaking, I thought, why not? I'll give the doctor another chance. Plus, if I refused to participate, I could be held in contempt of court and forced to start the sessions all over again. Have the two of you been intimate since all of this began? I kept my eyes on Amy, who seemed like she hadn't moved from her seat since our last session. I paused for a moment before answering, No, Doc. We haven't been intimate in any way. I continued looking at Amy, who stubbornly avoided eye contact with either me or the doctor. And why is that, Chaz? Doc, would you mind if I interrupted for a second to speak to Amy directly? The doctor hesitated, but then agreed. Amy, are you here to engage in this or not? Because I feel like I'm the only one putting in any effort here, and the last time I checked, I wasn't the one lying and sleeping with other people. You wanted this, not me. So either step up, or I'm done with this. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, I'll participate. All right, great. The doc here wants to know why we're not having intimacy. Why don't you go ahead and answer that, and I'll fill in any gaps if needed. Of course, I'm sorry. Well, Chaz isn't really talking to me, and I'm currently staying with a friend, so there hasn't really been an opportunity. Tick, tick, tick. And, I prompted. And, I haven't been tested for any diseases? Tick, tick, tick. And, I pressed again. And, well, Chaz says he's not comfortable with intimacy right now. That's not exactly what I said, but sure. It's a less dramatic version. Doc, do you have any idea how many chances I've had to cheat on Amy over the years? Well, no. How would I? But I'd guess you've had plenty of opportunities. You're an attractive, fit, successful man, so I imagine those chances have been more than abundant. I gave her a wink, and she blushed slightly. You bet. And yeah, there's been no shortage. I've got a problem, Doc. Setting aside Amy's dishonesty and selfishness, which have definitely impacted my feelings toward her, There are 3 reasons I can't be intimate with her right now. First, I don't want to give the impression that I'm okay with what she's done. If I were to be close to her before we work through our issues, it would feel like I'm accepting her infidelity, which I'm not. Second, I'm concerned about my health. I don't know what risks there might be, and I'm not willing to take any chances. I laughed briefly and continued. And finally, I feel like I need to even things out. Up until now, I've turned down every opportunity because I believed in the vows we made and loved my wife enough not to hurt her or our relationship. But now, knowing she's been with other people, it feels like, for things to be fair, I should have the same opportunity to explore. This isn't about revenge. That's just a side note. This is about fairness, balance, and equity. Don't you think those are important factors in fixing our marriage? Amy was trembling, and Dr. Carnes was biting the inside of her cheek, pondering her response. 5? She whispered. I was growing impatient with the both of them. Doc, how many more sessions did the court order for us? She glanced at me quickly, sensing the shift in the conversation. Let's see. The court requires 4 more sessions, Chaz. All right, and let me ask you, do you believe there's any chance we'll fix things enough for me to consider withdrawing my divorce petition within those 4 sessions? Amy gasped, and I turned to face her. Amy, I'm going to be as direct as possible. The only chance, and I want to stress, I'm not making any promises, but the only chance I see to reconsider the divorce is if I feel like things are back in balance. Mr. Watkins, I thought I made it clear how damaging that could be. We still have 4 sessions left, and I believe— Thanks, Doc. I understand your position. Amy, I'll repeat what I asked last week. If I feel that the only way for us to consider staying married is for me to feel like the score is even by exploring outside of the relationship, what will you do? Will you feel like you can't stay married and let the divorce proceed, or will you accept it? No response, just sobs. After a few uncomfortable moments, I turned to Dr. Carnes. When we first came to your office a few sessions ago, Dr. Carnes, what did you say was the most important thing for successful counseling? Honesty is key. If we're going to make any progress, both of you need to be completely honest with me and with each other. Do you believe I've been honest with you, Beverly? I asked, noticing her eyes widen slightly at the mention of her first name. Yes, I'd say you've been painfully honest with me, Chaz. Thank you. And how about Old Faithful over there? Do you feel the same? She gave Amy a thoughtful look, who seemed a bit uneasy. Honestly, I'm not sure I can answer that. Amy, you haven't contributed much during these sessions, and now that I think about it, it makes me wonder— Yeah, me too. Would it shock you to know, Beverly, that Amy is still being unfaithful? The friend she's staying with is actually her new lover. Amy sank deeper into her chair and began to quietly sob. Dr. Carnes appeared troubled. What are the minimum requirements to fulfill the remaining sessions to the court's satisfaction, Beverly? Beverly? Yes? Sorry. What? Oh, right. Well, I can report to the court at any time if I feel continuing the sessions is pointless and— And what will you be recommending, Bev? I asked, smiling at her. She studied my face for a moment, then a small, genuine smile spread across hers. Looking me straight in the eyes, she answered, I'll report to the court immediately, recommending the sessions be terminated and your divorce granted. Amy started trembling and sobbing uncontrollably. Thank you, Bev. I extended my hand and added, Will you call me when our file is closed? I'd love for you to be the first. Her eyes sparkled as Amy fainted. You can count on it, Chaz.